Psalm 37, verses 1 through 11, and verses 39 and 40. Throughout the reading, we will sing together the refrain, "Wait for the Lord," which is printed on your bulletin insert. Listen now for the word of the Lord. Not be envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so you will live in the land and enjoy security. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. He will make your vindication shine like the light, and the justice of your cause like the noonday. Be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for him. Do not fret over those who prosper in their way, over those who carry out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. For the wicked shall be cut off, and those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Wait for the Lord who stays near. Wait for the Lord, keep watch, take heart. Yet a little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look diligently for their place, they will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the land, and delight in abundant prosperity. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their refuge in the time of trouble. The Lord helps them and rescues them. He rescues them from the wicked and saves them, because they take refuge in him. Wait for the Lord who stays near. Wait for the Lord, keep watch, take heart. Wait for the Lord who stays near. Wait for the Lord, keep watch, take heart. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
I invite you to pray with me. Blessed are you, God, Creator, Sustainer, and Redeemer of all. We ask for your word, for your people are listening. Amen. As you might have heard, there's a special session of the General Conference going on. And whatever happens, whichever way the denomination decides to go, there are sure to be people upset about the outcome, and there are sure to be people thoroughly ecstatic about it as well. And isn't this the case with so much in life? There's winners and losers. But those definitions don't always line up with good and evil, wicked and righteous, liberal and conservative. And then defining who the wicked and righteous are depends on your theological, ethical, or moral beliefs. Whom I see as wicked, you may see as righteous, and vice versa. To make matters more complicated, who used to be wicked may now be a saint. Who used to be a saint has now somehow become corrupt, while others waffle back and forth. And then there's the difference between an immoral person and immoral actions. Someone who is evil and someone who has done something evil. Nevertheless, whether in this moment or different seasons of life, we as humans are pretty good at naming, according to our own definitions, who the wicked, the evil, or the wrongdoers are. Even as reality suggests, it's complicated. Regardless of your theological conviction, no matter who you call wicked and others call righteous, despite who's right and who's wrong, everyone wants to hear a sermon from time to time that calls out the wrongdoers, the line steppers, and the guilty. And it might go something like this. The wicked have defiled and opposed the righteous for far too long. Their day has come. Their time is up. Judgment day is coming. Thus saith the Lord, you have not been faithful to me. You have gone your own way and you live in sin. But I say to you, I am the Lord your God, and you are my people, and you will be held accountable for your actions. For I have called you to love and mercy, but you have given hatred and vitriol. Thus saith the Lord, let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Indeed, the day of the Lord is coming, and when Christ returns, he's bringing with him his friends truth and justice, and they'd like to introduce themselves. Thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Lord. The thing is, no matter the issue, no matter the position, no matter the rationale, anyone can maneuver that sermon to fit their cause. And those sermons can fire us up. They can move us to action, and they can help bring real gospel change into people's lives. But I don't think our resident poet for this week offers us a text for that kind of sermon. The psalmist does offer a nod in that direction, that the wicked and wrongdoers, like the grass with no root, will be scorched by the summer sun and wither away. That the vindication of and justice for the righteous will have a spotlight shone on them as bright as the noonday light for all to see. And that in the end, salvation is from God, who is a refuge in the time of trouble, a helper and a rescuer. But do we really believe all that? Do we really believe that day will come? Because it feels like, whoever it is that we name, the wicked prosper at the expense of others, live in good health with no regard for their neighbor, see their family unvisited by misfortune, don't care when they're the root of others' oppression, and are seemingly free from divine judgment. While the righteous are pious and ridiculed, faithful and mocked, just and imprisoned, seemingly free from divine protection. Is the pattern we see one where the prideful, privileged give up their wealth, monetary, social, or otherwise, so that the less privileged may have more wealth, opportunity, or freedom? Do we see immigrants and refugees warmly welcomed into a country which was founded by immigrants from a foreign land themselves? If we commit our way to the Lord and trust in God, will God act like justice for the excluded, forgotten, victimized? Like opportunity for the underprivileged, oppressed, and invisible? Like love and embrace for the lonely, abandoned, and lost? Do we see any of that happening? Will we see a denomination built on the theological foundation of prevenient grace, that before you have acted, spoken, thought a thought, or dreamed a dream, God offers grace to you, welcoming you, calling to you? Will we see this denomination extend that same grace to members of the queer community? Perhaps, though, this is the view of a young skeptic, say a millennial, a young adult whose eyes have been opened to the injustices of the world and is now out for vindication. So good at identifying problems, the adolescent advocate lies awake at night, worrying about the wicked's ways, and during the day successfully complains about them to anyone and everyone. It's often the younger generation throughout history, protesting, raging against the powers that be, fighting for what they believe in. And I'm not saying this is all bad. In fact, at times it's absolutely necessary. But the senior sage in our text has some advice for the adolescent advocate. In a section of this text that isn't included in today's lectionary reading, the author, the senior sage, says, I have been young, and now I'm old. I've been there. I've worried. But let me tell you what I've learned. The wicked won't last forever. They may last a while. Maybe they'll live their entire life in their ivory tower. Maybe they'll outlast you. But they won't outlast God. It feels like the senior sage is either overly optimistic or has seen some stuff and is just trying to keep the high blood pressure at a minimum. Eat healthier, exercise a bit, reduce your stress, doctor's orders. Look, you can spend your life angry and worrying and envious, but think what that'll do to you. But it's more than just worry as a problem itself. There's something about worrying because of the wicked, fretting over those who prosper in their way, as the psalmist says. Named explicitly in the second line, don't be envious of wrongdoers. In verse 10, you'll look for where they're at, even when they're not there. Might it be that our preoccupation with the success of the wicked is just a result of envy? Maybe not always, but at times, do we see their power, what they have or what they get away with, and think to ourselves, I wish I had that. If I had what they had, or maybe if they were righteous like me, I could rest easy. If we're still doubtful about not worrying, we can imagine the adolescent advocate asking, don't worry. Refrain from anger. Why? Do you know what I've been through? Do you see what's happening? Do you know how I've been hurt? Do you see the pain in the world? Or have you never been hurt? Or are you just in denial? But it's clear that the sage is not living in denial, but is very much aware of the pain, injustice, and iniquity in the world. It's all there in the text, and it's out of this awareness that comes the advice, don't get all worked up about the wicked. They'll fade away. God will cause your justice to shine like the high noon sun. So be still and wait for the Lord. Meaning, be present to everything going on in and around you with an eye toward heaven and an ear toward the Spirit and your feet following Jesus. So don't check out. Don't disengage. Don't be apathetic. But anger, be careful with anger. Frederick Buechner, writer, poet, preacher, theologian, among other things, describes anger in this way. Of the 7 deadly sins, anger is possibly the most fun. To lick your wounds, to smack your lips over grievances long past, to roll over your tongue the prospect of bitter confrontations still to come. to savor to the last toothsome morsel both the pain you are given and the pain you are giving. In many ways, it is a feast fit for royalty. The chief drawback is that what you are wolfing down is yourself. The skeleton at the feast is you. It's not that anger, as one of the 7 deadly sins, is deadly because it's a sin and the wages of sin are death, therefore, if you are angry, you deserve death. It's because anger can be a perpetual self-inflicting wound, never allowing for healing until, inevitably, you eat yourself alive. The senior sage says, don't worry, don't be angry. So we may ask along with the adolescent advocate, what then? If not anger, if not worry, what am I to do? The sage suggests, take delight in the Lord, and God will give you the desires of your heart. Take delight in the Lord, and God will give you the desires of your heart. What are the desires of your heart? Like the real desires of your heart. The ones you'd hesitate to share. The ones that occupy your daydreaming at work or school. The ones that comprise your nighttime pillow monologues. The ones that you tell that one friend who's a little crazy and gets you to say things that you would never imagine saying out loud. Are the desires of your heart power? Greed? Revenge? Do your desires have root in envy? Are they justice in the form of payback? Or justice as equality and dignity? Is there a desire for intercession by the God who claims to be refuge in a time of trouble? Or perhaps is it faithfulness to follow Christ? What are the desires of your heart? A desire to enact revenge is a desire from my heart. A posture of envy of what the wrongdoers are able to have, do, and get away with is a desire from my heart. A desire for wrath, for justice as I see it, for the downfall of the proud and oppressive, for God's annihilating judgment, for rescue for myself and not for my enemy. Those are desires from my heart. A desire for wholeness and healing for my enemy. It's not a desire from my heart. A desire for humility and meekness within myself is not a desire from my heart. A desire to forgive, let go of anger, and to even accept defeat, as I see it, is not a desire from my heart. What do we receive then when God gives us the desires of our hearts? It's my understanding that we don't receive what we desire. God doesn't give us the object of our desire. God gives us the desire itself, the right desire. God gives us what God desires. When we take delight in the Lord, what God desires, we desire. So, take delight in the Lord and receive what God has for you. Take delight in and receive the peace of Christ, even in the midst of injustice and wickedness. Take delight in and receive the grace of God, welcome for you even before you were. Take delight in and receive the mercy of God, forgiveness while you were yet a sinner, salvation, even for the wrongdoer. Take delight in and receive the love of God seen in Jesus Christ, who who is our salvation from all wickedness, wrongdoing, and wrath, whether by us or against us. Take delight in and receive the love of God who came to be with us, serving and suffering, dying and being resurrected. For you and for all of creation. Take delight in the Lord and receive what God has for you. But be careful. Take delight in the Lord, and you may end up desiring what God desires.